Hi, love. Welcome to today's magical episode of Blissed Out Codes. I am your host, Samantha Blossom. If you haven't yet hit the subscribe button, go ahead and hit that now so you can catch every episode fresh off the press. And if you could take a moment to leave a review, I would be so heart filled. The more reviews that we have, the more people can find us. And let's elevate the planet and bring higher consciousness and awareness and more blissed out energy to all of the beautiful creative entrepreneurs out there. Yay, yay, yay. So today I'm going to be chatting about how Saturn spanked my butt. This is how Saturn spanked my butt over the last 6 months. And Saturn is the planet of, it's a paternal planet. It's the planet of organizing, planning and organizing. It has to do with taxes. It has to do with details. And it's actually a really, really powerful planet to understand and play with. And playfully, I'm chatting about it as how Saturn spanked my butt. So if you have been in my world, I have 8 planetary aspects in Sagittarius. And Sagittarius is very playful. It can be very chaotic and messy. It's the philosopher. It's the person that's like, let's just wing it. Let's just do everything last minute. Let's just be spontaneous. Let's go. And the last 6 months, I felt like, I've had several astrologers that was like, oh, Saturn's over your chart. And I was like, what is happening? The way that I used to wing it, all those things was not working for me. And I really was, I didn't take the information well. I was like, and this is why astrology sessions can be so powerful. If I had the astrology session 6 months ago, I would have known like, oh, that's what's going on in my life and in my business. Saturn is kind of like, let's limit everything. Like, let's make you look at the tiniest details. Let's get everything clean and organized. If you think about a super professional, like German graphic designer, or German inventor, it's like they're so precise in the details. And that is so important in your business so often of the time. And with my lucky Jupiter in Sagittarius, I had been using a lot of my playful, fiery luck energy to create a lot of my business for several years. And finally, I was course corrected and adjusted by Saturn. And it wasn't fun in the process, but it was so essential and so needed. So I'm going to teach you a few ways. One, understanding Saturn and how it plays in your life and in your system, but also how to like balance yourself to the energy of Saturn, because Saturn can be a really powerful consciousness energy for your business, for your money matrix, for your physical body, for your cellular system, for your organs, your endocrines, all those things. But you kind of need to know how to connect with it, how to communicate with it, how to understand it. Otherwise, it can be very hard, spank your butt kind of feeling, which is what I went through. If I knew I was going through it, I could have approached the whole last 6 months in a very different way because I would have known what was happening. So with Saturn is it's a little bit more routine based and it's more practical, and what it's really getting you to do is to bring your spirit into physical form. I just realized that there had been so many ideas in my head that I wasn't anchoring into physical 3D reality. And I think that I thought I was, but there were so many aspects of it that I just wasn't actually getting out into the world. And if I don't get it out into the world, there's actually no way for me to impact someone's life. And and so Saturn brought this to my attention in a very real and detailed way. It was like I could feel it in my physical body. I was feeling it in my finances. I was feeling it in my friendships and in my relationships. It was like really highlighting and showing to me in every single aspect, like, hey, where are you being accountable? Are you actually showing up? Like, and there would be times when like I wanted to show up, I'm like I couldn't show up, and I just like didn't understand what was going on. And I realized I had really been just so spontaneous and winging it for so long. I actually didn't even know how to bring everything into these like more tangible bite-sized things to like actually get more energy out there. And I think like as an entrepreneur, you always get to this point where you're like, yeah, this is like pretty good. It's like, this is pretty good and it's good enough. But when you're when you're an expander, When you're one of those people that came to the planet to bring higher consciousness through, you're always on that next growth edge. You're always like, there's always like a little bit more, right? And so Saturn came in to kind of like clean up everything, made me look at everything in detail, like my taxes, my finances, like every single thing in detail. Hey, where are you spending your money? Where are you leaking your energy? Like, which friendships are you investing in? Like, is this actually a good exchange of your energy and your time? And I had to have such a good hard look at every single aspect of my life. And it was just like mind blowing and wild. And so some tools to play with, you can kind of create a little altar for Saturn and just be like, Saturn, I would really love your support, and I had this little moment of just like a tantrum of like, no, like I should be able to be free and just like play and do whatever I want. But the thing is like freedom, freedom really comes when you have a lot of structure. Like the more grounded structure that you have, the more free you are, right? Because when you have, like, for instance, like how awesome that Saturn has created like a physical car. You can rely on your car. Your car is going to drive, your car is going to go. That is like a physical manifestation of Saturn. It's like every single part of this car is perfect and it runs and you can depend on it and you can rely on it every single time, right? You can't just be like, let me just wing it. Like let me just like hope this, I'm just going to create a new car every time, like I step out of my house. Like that's not sustainable, right? And so in your business, like take a look and see where are the pieces, where's the organization, where's the structure, where's the pieces that you can just depend on and be like, yeah, like that funnel, like that product brings me this much every single month, like, and always does, or like this employee, they're so awesome. I can always depend on them to show up this way, right? Or maybe even in your health routines, you're like, you know what, no matter what, I always have like these workouts in, and no matter what, I have like these positive mindset things that I do every single day. Like where's the safety and the structure in your systems? Like where's the dependability? Where's the things that you're like, okay, yeah, no matter what, I'm always doing this. A really funny thing is like with my kitties, so my my ex-boyfriend, who I'm still very good friends with, Angel, he had broken up with his fiance, and then I had to take over the kitties. He decided he was going to move to Mexico. They needed someone to take the two kitties, Mochi and Matcha. So I decided to take the kitties. But at first, the kitties were like wild, and I had a really hard time. And then I started to create structure for them, right? And part of the structures were, no, you can't just be in my bedroom all day. You can't just be lounging in my bed all day. Like your fur is getting everywhere all the time. And that was like really, didn't feel good to me. So I started to create some really clear structures. Every morning, Mochi and Matcha get their hair brushed. It's like every morning they're both brushed. And they're not allowed in my room until about 5 a.m. 5 a.m. Mochi starts to kind of like tap her feet on the door. And so 5 a.m. to 7 a.m., their Mochi and Matcha are both allowed to come onto the bed and cuddle for about 2 hours. And so it's like just enough time that there's not like a lot of fur on the bed. So we do a 2-hour cuddle in the morning. I'm still kind of like half asleep, half doing my meditations, and they're purring and they're just like, we're all kind of like creating a 2-hour manifestation vortex in the morning. And then afterwards, like 7 a.m., I'm up. We brush them and, maybe they get like a couple treats, but it's like now we have a routine. And because now we have a routine, like they are so much more chill, and they're like, they understand the expectations. Okay, I'm not allowed in the room most of the time, but I'm not never allowed in the room, right? And so Saturn really teaches you these like tiny little like routines to support your system with creating like safety. Another routine that I started setting up was, I started going to Coast and Olive in Montecito in the morning. I start going there either like, 7:30, 8, sometimes 9. It kind of just depends on after my morning routine. I'll head over there, have my breakfast. Like I have like a really delicious omelet and fruit and my morning latte. I bring my computer. I write all my posts. I do like a concentrated like 2.5 hours of work in the morning. And that really fills me up. And that's my consistent routine, so it's like, okay, no matter what, in the morning, I have 2.5 hours of solid work, like done. And then everything else I do my highest priority work, like get that done between like 8 to 10, 30, whatever that time span is. And then I just feel so much more fulfilled for the day. I'm like, okay, great. Like that's my structure and that's my routine, right? Because I feel like as an entrepreneur, sometimes you can just, you can kind of forget about the structure sometimes. Not everybody, of course, it's like, but me with the Sag, I used to just wake up and be like, I wonder what I'm going to do today. I'm so excited. And I think there's a lot of people that can do that, but I, in my human design, which we'll do in some future episodes, but like I have like 3 masculine arrows. So really like routine and structures are like really helpful for my system. And again, like everyone's a little bit different on, where they are on that routine and structure spectrum. But it's like, I just invite you to play with, where is it in your life that it feels good to have a little bit of routine and have a little bit of consistency? The other one is, I always go to Core Power and I do yoga sculpt, and then knowing like when I'm going to go and like having that routine, right? It creates like a sense of safety for my system. So what is it for you that can support you in, in just like creating more of that structure or that routine? So the other fun part about Saturn is, and if you do any of my quantum particle work or the quantum body talk sessions, that you can essentially balance yourself to an aspect of the planet. So the planets are a huge celestial being. It's like a huge energy field that actually impacts your system. And you can either reduce that effect or increase that effect. And when you want to increase the effect of Saturn, so let's say an example is, you're having some part of your body that just like isn't healing for some reason, right? Maybe you've had like a cough over a long period of time, or maybe, it's like you've had a back pain, or maybe you're getting like neck pain or headaches, right? What you can do is like ask Saturn, please organize the cells in this area. You can essentially hold the focus, like in your imagination, see the blueprint of the cells, and then ask Saturn to balance to it, and then start to see the blueprint of the cells reorganize itself. So maybe it's like the entire structure of your neck or the entire structure of your head, or you do this for your business matrix. You might imagine your entire business matrix in front of you, and you're holding it like a huge blueprint in front of you. And you're like, Saturn, I would love to balance my business matrix so that it becomes organically more organized, right? And so that is how you can play with Saturn. And Saturn can have that feeling of like suffering and limitation and lack, because it's really kind of like getting you to see, like, here's the exact resource that you have, and like, what can you do with this exact resource, right? And so you can also ask Saturn, like, please, can we reduce the effects of this? You might even want to like place like some kind of, a little bit of an altar to like connect with Saturn and be like Saturn, as a celestial being, how can I have a better connection with you? And how can I reduce some of these effects? Because it's really creating a lot of pressure in my body, right? It's like you can communicate with these celestial bodies and see how that shifts and changes things. Saturn might also be asking you to really take like a clear look at your energy and your resources. Like, okay, like, how much energy am I putting out here, and like, what am I receiving from that? Like, is that exchange equal? Like, you're really starting to see like, okay, as you are an eternal being, of course, but you're also like limited. It's like you're in a human body. There is like some limitation to you, and Saturn's really getting you to look at like, okay, well, as this being, how can we maximize, how can we get your system to be way more efficient? It would just be like, like, I don't know, I like that analogy of like, it's like a German designer that's coming in and like observing your whole physical vehicle and your business, and just being like, hey, you know what? Like, you could be more efficient here. Like, your workout could be more efficient here. Like, your business could be more efficient here. So when Saturn is kind of playing with you, like, that's what's happening. It's like, it's not a punishment, really. It's really just like, hey, how can we restructure? How can we look at things from like a different perspective. How can we like, hey, you know what? Like you've been spending a lot of costs here. Like actually, like that doesn't make sense. You're leaking a lot of energy here. Like let's rearrange, like let's tighten up, like let's, and it's just so fascinating how you can kind of really see, okay, how is your energy being expended, and is it being shared in the best way? Is it in the most, in a way that's like actually serving you and everyone around you? And so that's really what Saturn's asking you to take a look at. So the invitation is to kind of like just make a list, go through all the things that you do every day. Like, one, does it light you up or not? Two, is it bringing your business like profit or not? Is it bringing your business new customers and new leads or not? Then you can start to assess like, yeah, that was a really good idea. Like that was a good idea. And this maybe I can do less of, or maybe I could hire out for this piece, right? You get to start to like assess, how can you make your entire system like more organized and more efficient, right? Yay. So I'm so excited. I thank you so much for joining me today in episode 2 of Blissed Out Codes. If you love this podcast, please share it with your friends. I would love to just like grow this community and make it so strong and so powerful. And you can also find me at Samantha Blossom Co. on Instagram. And if you have any specific questions that you want to chat about in podcast form, I am all in and can't wait to see you live your most blissed out life.